It's the most mythical mountain pass of cycling. A mechanical breakdown endangered the pink of Contador and allowed us to live one of the most epic comebacks of cycling. Do you want to know what happened on the Mortirolo in the Giro d'Italia 2015? Well, stay to the wheel, I'll tell you. Today, we open our section of the most epic attacks of Alberto CONTADOR. And in today's video, I'll tell you how the Spaniard passed based on courage, claw, and punch from being against the ropes due to a mechanical breakdown, to practically sentence the 2015 turn with an exhibition of cycling from another era, giving us an unlikely comeback against a Fabio Aru who could only surrender to the myth. If you like our topic today, subscribe and like, and if you don't like it, I think cycling is not your way. It wasn't an easy turn for our protagonist, and although he wore the maglia rosa on the 5th day, in a mid-mountain stage with a finish in Abitone, he had 2 falls. One of them caused him to dislocate one of his shoulders, a mishap that accompanied him throughout the race, impregnating with epic, a little more if possible, the achievement of his second Giro. The equality between the Spaniard, Fabio Aru, who was seen as the great rival, and the Spanish team of Astana, Mikel Landa, was evident during the first mountain stages without major differences between them. Only the time trial between Treviso and Valdobbiadene allowed Contador to add 3 minutes of advantage over the Italian and consolidate as maglia rosa. Although what was to come was scary, the young Aru, spurred on by the press, was willing to give battle. The next day, in Madonna del Campiglio, Astana made a brilliant tactical move, sending Mikel Landa ahead, since the Spaniard not only won the stage, but was placed in 3rd position overall in the declaration of intent of the Kazakh team. And so, we arrived at the terrible stage of Aprica, which could mark the future of the rest of the race. 174 kilometers and 5 passes, including the dreaded Mortirolo, to finish in Aprica, a place of worship for cycling lovers, where epic battles have been brewed that will last forever. And if the route, history, and the most mythical port of cycling were little, fate was cruel again with Contador, a cruelty that ultimately gave him the opportunity to enlarge his legend even more. In the first step through the finish line in Aprica, the Saxo rider was cut because of a mechanical breakdown that forced him to change his bike. At that moment, both Katyusha and Astana saw the opportunity to draw a gap and tighten the pace to the limit. Behind Contador's team, united around their leader to start the chase 15 kilometers still from the ascent to Mortirolo and about 50 from the finish line, a situation as exciting for the public as dangerous for the Spanish. Rallying Russians and Kazakhs under the same interests, the Tinkoff herds exploded in pursuit. Boaro and Kreuziger left their boss 50 seconds behind Landa and Aru at the base of Mortirolo. From there, Contador would have to manage only before the Astana riders, who began the ascent, to block being practically alone with Kreuziger. Contador started alone, took a staggered breath, and gave us one of the most anthological comebacks in cycling history. He began to overtake runners as if it were the ambulance, leaving a string of corpses along the way. Facing those terrible constant ramps of T13 and 14 of unevenness as if it were a false plane in a display of enormous force. Incredibly, at 6 kilometers of ascent in a whole display of faculties rarely seen in a colossus of these characteristics, Contador contacts with the Astana, who most likely didn't believe what they saw. The race situation was under control, and it seemed that Fabio Aru was not on his best day. This must have been noticed by Contador, who, not satisfied with having reached the head, demarró, as usual, looking to write another golden story in the golden book of cycling. The Italian succumbed to Saxos and had to see not only how Contador was going, but his teammate, with more strength at that time, was leaving also ahead, threatening his 2nd place. This had to be a blow for Aru, who also had to change the bike on the descent. The Italian crowned at 1 minute and 50 seconds of the trio that was formed, headed by Contador, Landa, and the Dutchman Kreuziger, a guest of honor who would become the greatest ally of Alberto Contador, since Landa obviously wasn't going to give a single relief. The Dutch rider had the promise of the stage from Contador, but not from Mikel Landa. Contador was sentencing the turn in the Queen stage on the way to Aprica. And in collaboration with Crisvoid, they reached the last ascent where Landa, which probably in that Giro gave his best version, went ahead in the absence of a few kilometers to win alone, like the great champions at the arrival of Aprica, a cycling sanctuary. For his part, Contador, who arrived a few seconds later, sentenced that day the Giro d'Italia with another demonstration of character, daring, and pundonor. And although he didn't take the victory, he left in our retina one of the best moments of his career, the Giro, and the history of cycling. If you want to continue enjoying Alberto Contador's deeds, you have to see this.